Hey everyone, this is the LEGO Ninjago Jay's Cyber Dragon set from Season 12. This is one of those rare occasions where what you actually build appears to be either the same size as what's on the box, or how it's shown on the box, if not even a little bit larger. So we're off to a good start. In addition to the main Cyber Dragon build itself, this set comes with Digi-Nia, Digi-J, a Kitana, this is Unagami himself, and the two Rat Pack members over there with their hoverboards. It's Hausner and Richie. LEGO has done a lot of dragons by now, especially in the Ninjago theme, so some things from this build are very familiar, like the segments of the tail, but then some things are not at all familiar. It does definitely feel like the designer was trying to push things a little bit while staying fairly simple in the build techniques as far as how assembly is concerned, but then bringing in some different things like how those toes are done with those cable management pieces that were introduced for one of the education themes, and the body even of the dragon. The main body is very, very solid and built up in every direction. Top, sides, bottom, even the front of it has a proper kind of a chest plate on it. And I'll show you more parts of this. I just want to give you kind of a overview at first. Once again, up front, using those toes that are different and interesting and very, I think, very appropriate for what they're trying to go for the theme here with the digital inspired design, whatever that means. Not the first time that we've seen astromech droid legs used in a dragon head, but they're integrated in there pretty nicely. This was, I mean, again, some parts of this feel familiar in how the head is put together. That does use a printed piece for the eye, which is on either side. So that's a printed 2x2. And of course, the mouth can open and close. Let's take a look at all of the articulation possibilities for this, though. So for the neck, this is able to rotate around on a ratcheted joint. It's also able to go up and down. And there's an additional neck segment there that allows you to bring the head all the way down or up pretty far. That one can also rotate a bit, so you can get the neck to kind of curl around like that, which is maybe a little bit awkward, but can make sense for some scenarios. So that's pretty much it for the head. And I already showed you the mouth opening and closing. You can kind of change the angles of these ears, if you will, or flaps behind the ears. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it's just a possibility. All these pieces really, really fit together just perfectly. Like if you don't have them aligned right, then they won't go together right. You won't be able to fold these white parts up. The wings, you know, they're kind of suggestions of wings because this is a digital world where you don't need actual aerodynamics, but you can imagine these having kind of a repulsor lift sort of effect. You can change the angle of the rear part of that. You know, it's kind of like dragonfly wings is how they're set up. They're a little bit small, I think, for this whole thing, but these can rotate around. They also have these engines that are supposed to be used for forward thrust, so these can flap up and down. They can rotate around just a little bit. Now, for the front legs, you can rotate these all the way forward, and I think there's a way to get this to balance, but there we go. There we go. Got it. Yeah, so that goes forward and back. This can also splay in and out. Those legs can, like so. That gives you that. And then they've got ball joints, so no working knees here, but I think that's okay. They've got ball joints for the ankles that can move around all kinds of ways. These front ones are mounted interestingly different, you know, with the angle of the socket joint there, but it does work, and it does allow you to get this thing into some forms of action poses that are still stable. And then you basically have the same thing for the rear legs here. So these are able to rotate forward and back, also splay in and out. And once again, you have a ball joint down here, but this one's just angled differently. So the orientation of the socket joint there is just different, but it does work for how this is set up. And then you've got all these ball joints in the tail. So you can curl the tail all the way around, curl it around here, bring it up, bring it under if you want. And the last thing I want to take a look at, because it's a dragon, it needs to fly. So I like to be able to get a good flying pose for a dragon, which for me means legs back and neck extended and head maybe up a little bit so it can kind of flow like this. I just always think of the never-ending story dragon. This is kind of my personal archetype for these, especially some of the more slightly more Asian inspired dragons. This one does have the large wings, but I guess they're not that big. So yeah, bring the wings back a little bit. You know, that looks pretty nice. That's a pretty nice flowing look, and you can imagine this thing actually flying around. It's not too easy to get that going, you know. That's kind of elegant. I like that. Looking at the control area, because this is a digital thing, not an organic thing, so it has an actual cockpit, or yeah, I guess you would call it a cockpit area. It has a heads-up display. I'm going to take the pilot off momentarily just so you can see that from the other side. Heads-up display with a book cover piece that has a sticker on it. And for controls, of course, it has the game controller, which is just the common input device used throughout Prime Empire. And then there's a second seat back there, so you can easily put a second person on there. You can put a third person on back there. You know, there are ways to get even more people on, but it's very simple to do that. And you can see just how closed up everything is and how finished it is. As I try to move some things out of the way, even along the sides. You know, this is pretty properly built up. Looking at it from the underside, I mean, that's covered up pretty well. And this has a really interesting build inside. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to show you in terms of articulation is this kind of waist articulation. So that's kind of deluxe as well. And it's hidden away with the help of the large wedge plate piece on the top, you know. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see in there, but you know, there's just enough of a gap. Tried to make it as organic as reasonably possible, even though this is not an organic thing. This though, I wanted to point this out because this has a very interesting build for the interior, something that I've never seen before. And you'll just have to look at the build or the instructions if you want to see the exact assembly of it. But this is a trigger, which is, you know, not too in your face. I appreciate that. I mean, it could have been maybe a black piece, but then it would have been the wrong length. Anyway, that is a remote trigger for the spring-loaded shooters, which are here in the belly, or in the chest, I guess. And you push that down, and, you know, obviously they're going to fire out. So there, they only fire out. No point in shooting them across the studio here. But just the way that was integrated in is pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. Especially since the trigger mechanism, the trigger group, if you will, is separate from the breech where the bolts are held. So the build is pretty good here overall. I do feel like it's still a little bit blockier than it needed to be, mostly with the legs. Like the body has that nice flowing shape to it, but then the legs feel unnecessarily blocky. Like they tried to bring in some wedge plate pieces and also the 5-sided Nexo Knights shield front part there. But yeah, it still ends up a little bit blocky. The feet are kind of flowy, kind of rounded. And you can also move the toes. I forgot that. Those are independent if you want to. And that's pretty much it for the Dragon itself. It does have quite a number of little stickers that are used, small to medium-sized stickers, but they're very easy to leave off. If you absolutely hate stickers, you're not going to miss much by leaving those off, because most of what you see here in terms of its decorations and all is accomplished with just parts, you know, just building techniques. Before bringing you all the way in to take a closer look at the minifigures, I wanted to show you the rest of the builds, small builds. So this is just a Kitana with its little power-up stand. And interestingly, this one doesn't have a sticker on the front of it. The others have had a sticker that has a question mark to suggest that it's like a loot box type of thing, or a random power-up. But this one does not, because it's already known what's inside of it for this particular challenge, I guess, that this is trying to go with. And then these hoverboards are built a little bit differently. I mean, they're just based around, basic surfboards, but this one has the 2 stud shooters in the front, and looking at it from the other side, you know, it's just something a little bit different. This is not able to rotate around freely. Got a little suggestion of engine exhaust there, I guess. And of course you can fire those off. And then this one has an interesting Technic piece that's used for its little adapter for twin engines. In that, again, using these nice little spearhead parts that were introduced for Nexo Knights originally, if I recall correctly. And that's that. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the figures, and we'll start with these. Both Rat Pack members, in my opinion, look best fully suited up like this, with the armor piece and with weapons and all that stuff. Once you strip all that stuff down, they just don't look as interesting to me, especially Richie here. I think he has interesting colors, but when you take off all that extra stuff, the sand green just kind of turns into a blah, relatively. Just my personal opinion. But all set up like this is nice. It's got the health bar indicator on the back and everything. Got the nice weapon with dual molded hilt in the red and black colors and a digi style of blade to go with that. It's a pretty good setup. Take off the armor part with all of its add-ons and his extra katanas and everything. And, well, you can see the print on the back of the torso, so that's good. But other than that, see, it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't look as cool this way. Hausner also comes fully loaded up, but the color scheme for this one, I would say, is not as brave as Richie. I mean, yeah, it's hot pink, it's magenta, but still all the colors here just go together, So this one looks, I don't know, just more well-formed in some ways, like, just kind of has its own theme, and that hair piece on the top really works well, gives it a little bit of a different flair and everything. And for this one, the stripped down form just looks a little bit cooler, works a little bit better in my opinion, but still, of course, not as strong as with the full outfit. Unagami is included in his full form as well. I'm glad that they did not just keep the main bad guy in his main, fully outfitted form into just one set, like they sometimes have done in the past or would have done in the past, forcing you to get the most expensive set in the line to get the baddest main bad guy. But, this is everything for him, and I think it's a pretty cool figure. My opinion on that has not changed. This one underneath there does have an alternate face. Looks very much like Darth Maul. As a matter of fact, I might actually try to do like a Darth Maul. I used to say Dark Vader when I was a little kid, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So that's a pretty cool part. And there's that other face. So he has the two different expressions, kind of two different modes, I'd say, or two different states. Nia, as it turns out, is an artificially rare character in this season, with this being the only set to include Digi Nia here. They've done something interesting with her color scheme. They've experimented with her colors in the past, trying to get in some blues for the water elements, but also in the past holding on to some of the dark red from the Samurai X days. Now they've completely separated Samurai X away, so they've gotten rid of all the red, and she's got her gunmetal gray, which I think is nice. But they've brought in much stronger blue influence into this and shifted it farther away from regular blue. So previously they've tried a little bit of blue, they've tried a little bit of dark azure, now they've gone medium azure, which is technically a cyan, which is very distinct from regular blue. So, comparing her color to Jay, it's a lot more noticeable than if they had stuck with the dark azure. I like it. I like that direction, and I hope that they stick with it and do more with the medium azure for her in the future. There's her face, the digi form of her face, which from some angles, or maybe when you first look at it, at least for me, looked a little bit awkward because of the lipstick, just kind of blurred together with the visor section of it. But as I look at it a little bit more, it makes more sense to me. And then there's just the regular face over there. And to look at the print on the back of the torso, which does have some gunmetal gray print on there. If I can get the light to hit it just right. Let's see. Oh, I saw it. There we go. There we go. So you can see a little bit of that shine in there. Also the silver, just, it's metallic. That's cool. Finally, looking at the spare parts, there are plenty of them, especially weapon-related things. Feel free to hit pause if you want to sit there and dwell on those a little bit, pick out each individual one. This is very nice. I'm not sure if that blade, that forlong blade in the trans neon reddish orange was supposed to be there. I don't think it was supposed to be, but maybe. And then the spent sticker sheet shows you that there aren't really that many stickers. It just, I don't know, as I was building it felt like I was going to the sticker sheet on a somewhat regular basis, but it's not that many for the size of the thing. And as is normal for this particular season, they include some spare stickers as well that you can use however you want. I like that. This costs $50 US. For the amount of stuff that I see here, I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. I would not mind seeing it at 45, but I feel like it would be absolutely unreasonable of me to ask for it to be 40. So I think this is definitely well within the range given the number of figures, the fact that the figures do have all of their accessories. The build for this thing is nice. It's not empty and open. It's not hollow. It has some nice techniques. It has some nice parts. Feels pretty right. You can articulate it. You can make it feel fun. You can make it feel cool to handle it. You can pose it in all sorts of different ways. I think that it can successfully appeal to Lego builders of different ages and different levels and provide, good entertainment. I think it's a pretty successful set. Not one of the best dragons that they've ever done, I feel like it had the potential. It was going in that direction. When I built the body is definitely one of the best dragon bodies, and probably one of the best large or built up animal bodies that I've ever had my hands on from Lego. But, the head and the neck is kind of standard fare by now. Maybe I'm a little bit spoiled by some of the stuff that they've done in recent years, but there's nothing too special there. The legs are not that great. The toes are really cool. The feet are good. The tail is just fine. It's just normal. Figures are good. But overall, a fair set, pretty well done for what it is, and a fair value, I think. So that's it for my look at this. Check out the build video, either the real-time build or the speed build, whichever is your preference. If you want to check out the pure build, the real-time one, I suggest trying it at 2x speed on YouTube. It's interesting because you still get the same sort of sound quality, but things just go by at a more reasonable rate to be entertaining to your eyes. Even if you just throw stuff on in the background like that, I just think it's something worth trying if you haven't tried it up to this point. So thank you for watching this. Thank you for checking out one of the builds. If you'd like to, I'll talk to you again very soon.